Hello my best friends. My name is Layla and this is Layla Flicks. The movie today starts with a strange-looking monkey walking down the street, and it's clear from the way he moves that he's there to carry out a specific mission. On the other side, we see his colleague, a cat named Vladimir, who is tracking his every move step by step to keep him safe. Vladimir guides him to the person who's supposed to receive the bag he's carrying. At that moment, Vladimir notices two cheetahs close to the delivery spot. He gets very worried and decides to step in, but his boss, Mike, stops him and tells him to ignore them completely and focus on the mission. Suddenly, one of the cheetahs speeds off on his bike, snatches the bag from the monkey, and escapes. The monkey immediately takes off running after him and keeps chasing him. Meanwhile, the second cheetah heads straight for Vladimir, knocks him down, and sends him tumbling. Vladimir loses his temper, grabs a motorbike, and races after them at top speed. As soon as the monkey sees Vladimir, he jumps onto the same bike with him, and the two of them begin chasing the cheetah who stole the bag. Once they get close to him, the cheetah throws the bag to his partner. At that moment, Vladimir launches off with the bike, jumps onto the rooftops, and starts chasing the second cheetah there. The monkey takes advantage of being close enough, jumps onto the cheetah's bike, and attacks him to get the bag back. But suddenly the cheetah throws the bag to his partner and falls off the roof, while the monkey loses control and crashes into a road sign. On the other side, Vladimir jumps higher, goes after the second cheetah, and skillfully continues the chase until they both head into a construction area between buildings. The cheetah manages to slip out easily, unlike Vladimir, who accidentally knocks over construction equipment and sends it crashing down onto police cars. Despite all that, Vladimir keeps chasing the cheetah, who eventually loses control of his bike, crashes, and falls. Vladimir manages to control his own bike, stops it, goes over to the cheetah, grabs the bag from him, and restrains him so he can be arrested. After that, we go to the headquarters of the intelligence agency. There, we see the director, Koter, talking on the phone with the mayor. As soon as he ends the call, he completely loses his temper and starts yelling at Vladimir about all the destruction he caused in the city. He blames him for what happened to the monkey during their mission and keeps scolding him for the buildings he brought down and the cars that were destroyed. Vladimir apologizes and reminds him that he still managed to retrieve the bag and technically completed the mission successfully. Koter calms down a bit and tells him that he is indeed their most talented agent, but that he causes massive damage in every single mission. That's why he's decided to punish him by sending him to an offshore platform in the middle of the sea. He explains that Vladimir's mission there will be to protect a very dangerous substance called radiosite, and tells him there will be another agent on the platform, a technology expert, waiting for him. Vladimir is annoyed and asks Koter to let him handle the mission alone, without that other agent. But Koter refuses and explains that this is only a temporary reassignment, and that if Vladimir doesn't follow orders and go to the platform, he'll be kicked out of the agency for good. Even though Vladimir is very upset, he's forced to accept. Some time later, a plane takes him and drops him off at the platform in the middle of the sea. As soon as Vladimir steps off, the plane leaves. After a while, Vladimir goes into the control room, which basically looks like a trash-filled monitoring station. Suddenly, a strange person comes out of the bathroom, and Vladimir is startled and points his gun at him. The man quickly reassures him and introduces himself as the agent he was told about. His name is Hector. From their conversation we understand that there's no one else on the platform but the two of them. Days go by, and we see Vladimir feeling extremely bored, because he never does anything new or exciting. Hector, on the other hand, is living his best life, spending his time watching TV shows on the surveillance screens. One day, three people emerge quietly from a submarine and approach the platform. They manage to get inside from below. Their leader uses symbols in a book he's carrying to access the room where the radiosite is stored. Then he connects a chip to the security system and starts hacking the protection systems. At that exact moment, Hector doesn't notice the intrusion alarm at all, because he's too focused on his favorite TV show. Vladimir joins him and offers him a slice of pizza, then starts making fun of the show and its main actress. Hector gets offended and tells him that the actress's name is Maya, that she's the greatest actress in the world, and that he's one of her biggest fans. Even so, Vladimir keeps mocking her, so Hector gets angry and attacks him. Just as Vladimir is about to hit back, he notices the alarm, and they turn on the surveillance cameras. The moment they see what's happening, they grab their weapons and rush out. When the gang leader sees them coming, he takes control of the security systems and launches 3 drones at them to slow them down. The drones fly quickly toward them and surround Vladimir and Hector. Because Vladimir is a skilled agent, he easily destroys one of the drones. Hector, on the other hand, can't aim properly or attack them at all. Panicking, he runs away, and the 2 agents get separated. A bit later, we see Hector hiding from the second drone. He decides to take advantage of its passing and jumps onto it while it's flying, connects his device to its wires, and successfully hacks it, taking control. Meanwhile, Vladimir is running from the third drone. He manages to dodge it and destroy it with ease. When the gang leader sees what happened, he's shocked and sends a large number of drones to stop them, and also dispatches one of his henchmen to distract them. Vladimir is surprised when he sees a whole swarm of drones flying toward him, surrounding him and opening fire. Even so, he manages to dodge their attacks, begins firing back, and destroys them one after another. But since there are so many, they manage to surround him again. Suddenly, Hector arrives, attacking with the drone he controls, forcing some of the drones to leave Vladimir and chase him instead. Vladimir seizes the chance and destroys one of the 2 drones still pinning him down, then runs as fast as he can to escape the second one. When he sees a third drone coming toward him, he suddenly jumps and grabs onto a hanging chain, causing the 2 drones to collide and explode. He also dodges the henchman who tries to attack him, grabs onto the man's leg while he's airborne, throws off his movements, and slams him into a metal pipe. We cut back to the gang leader, who has finished hacking the security system completely, opened all the locks, and sends his henchmen to steal the radiosite. When the gang members try to escape the facility, they slip and fall down the stairs. As they do, a strange book falls to the ground, but they ignore it and keep running, eventually making it to the surface. We return to Hector, who's still controlling the drone with great skill, dodging all incoming attacks and destroying the drones one after another. Vladimir picks up the book he found and heads to the roof. He points his gun at the gang leader's henchmen just before they escape, and at the same time Hector arrives, aiming the drone's cannon at them and trapping them. Suddenly, one of the henchmen tackles Hector, knocking him into Vladimir. Vladimir falls and gets distracted, and Hector loses consciousness. The henchmen exploit the opportunity, grab their leader, and fly off with him, escaping from the platform. A little later, we return to the intelligence agency headquarters. Vladimir and Hector are there, clearly frustrated, each blaming the other for what happened. Once Koter hears what happened, he's stunned. He explains to them that radiosite is extremely dangerous and that if it falls into the wrong hands, it will be used to destroy the world. He keeps yelling at them and blaming them for failing to protect the platform. Vladimir cuts in and says he has already started investigating the gang. He explains that the people behind the attack operate from a certain hospital in the middle of the city, and that he learned this through the book that fell from them. At that moment, Koteru gets an idea and starts outlining a plan for Vladimir and Hector. He tells them they will disguise themselves as nurses and work in that hospital to uncover the gang's plans. Both Vladimir and Hector protest, they each don't want to work with the other. Koteru yells at them and reminds them this is their last chance. So Vladimir and Hector get into an ambulance and head off. As soon as they arrive, they're surprised to see the actress Maya entering the hospital. Vladimir calls out to Hector to distract him, then takes advantage of the moment, tranquilizes Hector, and wheels him into the hospital as if he's a patient. Vladimir leaves Hector on the gurney and walks away, even though the gurney tumbles down the stairs and crashes. Hector still doesn't wake up. Vladimir goes to the reception desk, introduces himself as the new nurse, and says his name is Rex. The receptionist is surprised, because Rex is supposed to be the name of a dog, not a cat, but she doesn't care much and tells him he'll be working on the first floor. Vladimir leaves her and sets off to begin his shift. As he walks, he tries to explore the place, comparing the looks of everyone he sees with the description of the gang leader. We then cut back to Hector, who finally wakes up but is still under the influence of the tranquilizer. He staggers down the hall, wandering around the hospital looking for Vladimir. We return to Vladimir, who enters the office of a doctor named Doc, pretending he's just there to ask where the hospital's safe is. We realize he's doing this to match Doc's appearance with the description of the gang leader, and he indeed finds a match and starts to suspect him. Suddenly, two maintenance workers show up and run into Vladimir. They introduce themselves and say their names are Cap and Jim. Vladimir gets a bit nervous and tells them he's the new nurse, Rex. After he leaves, Cap and Jim go back to repairing the coffee machine, which, as it turns out, is connected to everything in the hospital. A little while later, Vladimir returns to the reception area and learns from the news that a violent storm suddenly hit somewhere, and that in the middle of that storm, a strange individual appeared and attacked a white rhino, leaving it in critical condition after firing an ice beam at it. The news anchor explains that this species of white rhino is endangered, with only 5 left in the entire world. He compares this incident to another that happened on Mammoth Island 20 years ago, which led to the island's destruction and the extinction of the mammoths. At that moment, Vladimir realizes that the same person who stole the radiosite is the one who used the ice beam. Suddenly, Kotaro appears on the screen, announcing that the injured rhino will be transferred to the city hospital, and that they will search for suspects and arrest them. By coincidence, Vladimir runs into the nurses who are bringing the rhino into the hospital, and he is amazed when he sees one of them, a beautiful rabbit. She introduces herself and tells him her name is Chloe. She asks him to help push the rhino's bed because it's too heavy. Vladimir uses a fire extinguisher, wedges it under the bed, and sends it rolling forward at high speed down the hospital corridors. On their way, they slam into Hector, knocking him unconscious again, and keep on rushing until they burst into the operating room. There, Doc starts examining the rhino. When he turns on the X-ray machine, he's surprised to see 2 bats and tells them to leave. Then he goes back to checking the rhino, monitors its heartbeats, and notices that they're gradually dropping. He gets very worried. At that moment, the rhino starts talking to Vladimir, telling him that the one who did this to him is the ice monster with glowing red eyes. Meanwhile, Chloe and the other nurses observe the rhino's condition and try to save him, but his heartbeat keeps declining. We see his little daughter watching, terrified for her father. When Vladimir realizes the situation is getting worse, he decides to act. He uses his glasses to locate the defibrillator. Doc grabs it and tries shocking the rhino's heart, but there's no response. The rhino is on the verge of death. We cut to Cap, who is still working on fixing the coffee machine. Unfortunately, he causes a complete power outage in the hospital. Back in the operating room, Doc and the nurses are frozen in panic. They don't know what to do. Suddenly, Vladimir gets an idea when he sees an aquarium nearby. He takes advantage of the electric fish inside, which emit electrical pulses, and uses them to shock the rhino's heart and bring it back to normal. The idea works. The rhino starts breathing again. As soon as Cap reconnects the wires, the power comes back on, but the gears inside the machine grab Jim and trap him inside the coffee unit. Back in the operating room, Doc checks the monitor and announces that the rhino's heartbeat has returned to normal. Everyone there rejoices, because his condition is now stable. His daughter hugs him tightly and thanks Vladimir for saving her father's life. Vladimir is moved by the scene and leaves the operating room with Chloe. As they walk, Chloe thanks him for what he did to save the rhino. Meanwhile, we see Jim still stuck between the gears until he accidentally drinks some coffee. Because of that, Cap screams in terror, as the coffee makes Jim grow larger and transforms him into a giant, uncontrollable dragon. Jim starts flying wildly through the hospital corridors. Vladimir and Chloe are shocked when Jim comes at them, breathing fire. Terrified, they run off in different directions to confuse him. Vladimir uses his skills to grab onto Jim, and Jim unintentionally carries him as he flies. Chloe suddenly appears and shoots a tranquilizer dart at Jim, but by mistake hits Hector instead, knocking him unconscious yet again. She fires 2 more darts and finally manages to hit Jim. Even so, Jim keeps flying until he reaches the reception hall. There, the tranquilizer finally takes effect and he starts shrinking. Chloe ties herself to the fire hose, jumps at the last moment, and manages to save Vladimir and Cap just in time. Vladimir is amazed by what Chloe has done and thanks her for saving him. From this moment, it's clear that the two are starting to like each other. We then see the receptionist waking Hector up. She checks on him and asks why he's there. Because he's still under the influence of the tranquilizers, he blurts out the truth and tells her he's a spy on a secret mission. Suddenly, a chicken and a parrot show up and claim they're spies too. And the problem is that Hector believes them and tells them all about his mission. The receptionist orders a nurse to transfer them all to the psychiatric ward. Hector tries to get out of the room he's been locked in. He loses his temper, shouts at the other patients, and tells them he has to escape. A while later, he gets an idea. He decides to team up with the other patients, and they help him break down the door. They all start running through the corridors together. We then go back to Chloe, who is giving Vladimir a tour of the hospital. She hints that she'll be free after her shift and might accept an invitation to dinner. Before Vladimir can answer, Hector suddenly appears and interrupts them. Vladimir apologizes to Chloe, grabs Hector, and pulls him into the room next door. In that room, Hector keeps blaming Vladimir for what he did to him. Vladimir, however, insists he did nothing wrong, he's always preferred to work alone. While they bicker, they realize they're in the rhino's room. When they notice the rhino isn't in his bed, they understand someone has moved him. Suddenly, they hear Doc and Maya approaching, so they quickly hide under the bed. They watch as Doc and Maya enter the room. Doc asks Maya to reconsider the operation to shorten her antennae, because if she does it, she'll lose her ability to communicate with bees. Despite all his warnings, Maya insists on her decision. Doc sets a date for the surgery and leaves. A little later, Maya makes a phone call and assures the person on the other end that she has followed all his instructions. Vladimir and Hector are practically acting as her mirror. They hear the man tell her that her mission is to steal a very dangerous material. Maya reassures him that she's up to the task and ends the call. When she turns around, she finds Vladimir pointing a gun at her, demanding to know where the radiosite she stole is. Maya has no idea what he's talking about and is confused by their presence in her room. By coincidence, her recorder falls to the ground and plays back the exact words they heard earlier. Vladimir and Hector are confused and ask her what's going on. Maya explains that she's practicing for her new role, where she plays a spy, and that the director asked her to shorten her antennae for the part. That's why she's in the hospital. Hector tells Maya that he's one of her biggest fans and takes a photo with her. From how they behave, Maya realizes that Vladimir and Hector are real secret agents. She insists on joining them, saying it will help her portray her role better. Vladimir refuses outright, but Maya threatens that if they don't let her join, she'll expose them to the press and everyone will learn the truth about them. Vladimir is forced to agree to let her tag along. The three of them start wandering around the hospital trying to find the rhino. By coincidence, they see the two bats and overhear them saying that the boss is waiting for them in the basement. The bats get into the elevator. Vladimir tells Hector to go wait for them downstairs. But when the elevator doors open, Hector is shocked to find that the bats aren't there. When the elevator goes back up, Vladimir and Maya open it and find only Hector inside. All three are baffled and have no idea what just happened. Hector then gets an idea. He hacks into the elevator's control panel and discovers there's a hidden floor between their level and the basement. He activates the elevator, and it takes them down to the secret floor. To their surprise, the door opens on the opposite side. When they step out, they find themselves in an abandoned area that clearly hasn't been entered in a long time. They start exploring until they reach a certain room. Inside, Vladimir finds old photos of Doc and Cap on Mammoth Island, standing next to Radiosite. From the map in front of him, he realizes these pictures were taken there, and when he connects the dots, he suspects that Doc is the ice monster. By chance, Maya finds a videotape and has no idea what it contains. Hector explains that they need an old projector to watch it. The three continue exploring and enter another room. There, Hector finds a huge stash of radiosite, and Maya discovers the same suit the gang leader wore during the attack on the platform. Now all three of them are certain that Doc is behind everything. Following a sound, they find the bats pushing the rhino along. They secretly follow them into a huge chamber beneath the hospital. They sneak closer, point their guns at the bats, and order them not to move. Suddenly, the ice monster appears, splitting them up. He uses his ice beam to trap the bats inside a mountain of ice and aims his weapon at the rhino, intending to kill him. At that exact moment, Vladimir intervenes and distracts him. The ice monster turns his aim on Vladimir and attacks, but Vladimir manages to dodge all of his attacks. The ice monster then grabs a car and hurls it at the ice, shattering the frozen barrier. The bats manage to escape, but the ice monster continues to hunt for them. Maya notices a motorcycle attached to a sidecar and Vladimir is surprised to see the agency's logo on it. He jumps into the sidecar and starts it up. The sidecar transforms into an advanced vehicle, separates from Maya's bike, and flies off at incredible speed toward the ice monster. Vladimir rams into him, knocking him down. Maya rides the bike with impressive skill, while Hector opens fire on the ice monster, shooting at him repeatedly. Enraged, the ice monster begins throwing more cars at them. Maya does her best to dodge them one by one until she crashes. Seeing this, Vladimir fires the vehicle's cannon at the ice monster, causing him to retreat and run off. Vladimir goes after him, searching for him inside the building. When the ice monster realizes Vladimir can't see him, he seizes the chance, aims at the vehicle, and attacks it, disabling it and sending it crashing to the ground. Vladimir jumps out at the last second and saves himself. He pounces on the ice monster, slashing at him, but the ice monster isn't affected. He throws Vladimir against a wall, knocking the strength out of him, and aims at him to freeze him in place. At the last second, Hector intervenes, ramming the ice monster with the motorcycle and knocking him away. Hector points his gun at him and tells him he'll protect his friend no matter what. When the ice monster attacks again, Hector bravely stands his ground and manages to shoot and destroy the ice cannon entirely. The ice monster is forced to flee. Hector and Maya go to check on Vladimir. He shows them a fur sample he took from the ice monster and tells them he's certain it belongs to Doc and that Doc stole the radiosite to power the ice suit. Back in their room, Hector puts the sample into an analyzer to see if it matches document. Vladimir is furious when the machine shows that the sample isn't in the database at all. Hector says Doc must belong to a very rare bear species, so he'll have to widen the search, but that will take much longer. While they talk, Hector moves closer to Maya and asks her not to shorten her antennae, telling her she's beautiful the way she is. Maya is annoyed by his interference and refuses. The next day, the three wake up, and as soon as Chloe enters the room, Hector quickly hides. Chloe is surprised to see Vladimir in Maya's room and feels jealous. She asks if they're in love. Maya cuts her off, says that's impossible, and lies, telling her that Vladimir is her cousin. Chloe is confused but lets it go and starts preparing Maya for her surgery. Before leaving, Maya asks Vladimir to come along. In the operating room, Vladimir asks Doc about the wound on his hand. Doc says he injured himself while playing with a pen. As expected, Vladimir doesn't believe him and grows more suspicious. Maya sits in the chair that clamps her in place. As the equipment starts up, she becomes very nervous. Chloe notices and asks if she wants to back out, but Maya insists on going through with the operation. Seeing that she's still hesitant, Vladimir seizes the moment, accidentally spills coffee on the machine, and breaks it. Then he leaves them and goes back to Hector, who is delighted that Maya won't be having the surgery after all. Vladimir is annoyed to see that the database loading has only reached 85%. He says they need to find an old projector to play the videotape. Hector gets an idea and says he knows exactly where to find one. We then see Cap, who still can't fix the broken machine. Doc tells Maya they'll postpone the operation to another day. Meanwhile, Vladimir and Hector take a bike to a certain place and enter an antique shop. The owners try to sell them all kinds of fake items, but Vladimir asks if they have an old tape projector. The owners take them to a room where the device is kept. Vladimir inserts the tape, and the video begins to play. To their surprise, Doc appears on the screen, but 20 years younger, clearly working for the intelligence agency. He explains that he's on Mammoth Island, where the last herd of mammoths lives. They're on the brink of extinction because the temperature there doesn't suit their nature. He says his goal is to create a climate system that suits them and protects them from extinction, using his invention powered by radiosite. Cap appears beside him in the video and activates the machine, which emits a cooling field to regulate the climate. At first, Doc and Cap are proud of their success. But suddenly, the radiosite malfunctions and spins out of control. They can't stop it, and the device releases extreme cold and a powerful beam into the sky that freezes the entire island. We cut back to Maya, who is waiting for the database to finish loading. When the result appears, she's shocked to see that the sample belongs to a mammoth. She's confused, because mammoths are supposed to have gone extinct long ago. She tries calling Hector to tell him the result, but his phone is off. We return to Vladimir and Hector, who watch the entire video and confirm that Doc is behind everything. They understand his goal is to wipe out rare species. They go to Kotera and show him the photos and video, explaining what happened. Kotera tells them that Doc was indeed once one of the agency's agents, but disappeared right after causing the mammoth's extinction. He confirms that Doc is the ice monster they've been searching for. Vladimir, however, insists they shouldn't rush. He says they still need to discover the identity of the third accomplice who helped Doc on the platform. Kotera, though, insists they must arrest Doc and Cap as soon as possible. When Hector sees the wound on Kotera's hand, he becomes suspicious. As they talk, Kotera's assistant comes in and places some files on a particular shelf. Suddenly, the shelf shifts, revealing a hidden compartment containing the ice monster's suit and a strange fur. We realize Kotera has been shaving constantly, so no one realizes he's actually a mammoth. Vladimir and Hector are stunned by what they see. While they're still in shock, Kotera closes the secret compartment and locks them, along with his assistant, in a cell. They don't understand why Kotera is doing this or why the rhino was taken to the secret floor. They keep wondering who the third accomplice was who helped Doc steal the radiosite. They're surprised to find someone else locked up with them, the cheetah Vladimir arrested in the first mission. The cheetah tells them he has a plan to get them out easily. He shows them a map of the place, and they all get excited and start carrying out the plan. In no time, Vladimir and Hector are out of the cell and amazed at how easily the cheetah broke them out. They rush back to the hospital. Hector hacks the elevator again, and it takes them down to the secret floor. As soon as the door opens, Vladimir and Hector are shocked when Chloe jumps on Vlad, takes his gun, and reveals that she was the accomplice on the platform. She mocks him, saying she figured out who he was from the first day he arrived at the hospital. Then she hands the gun back to Vladimir and asks them to follow her so she can explain everything. She opens a door leading to a beautiful area under the hospital. Inside, we see all kinds of endangered animals, each living inside its own special bubble. Among them is the white rhino, whose condition has improved greatly. His daughter runs to Vladimir and hugs him. Chloe explains that they did indeed attack them and steal the radiosite, but only so they could use it to save endangered species and power the research center. Doc arrives, warmly greets Vladimir and Hector, and apologizes for what he did. He tells them he was eaten alive by guilt over what happened to Mammoth Island. After 20 years of experiments, he finally managed to control radiosite. He used it to adjust the climate for each animal and built this research center to save rare species from extinction. Hector and Vladimir are amazed by Doc's achievement and by the number of endangered animals he has saved. A bit later, Hector tells Doc that the mammoths aren't actually extinct, because Kotara is still alive, and reveals that Kotara is the ice monster. Doc is stunned and can't believe what he's hearing. He realizes Kotara wants to wipe out rare species, just like what happened to him. Vladimir cuts in and reminds them they need to leave immediately, because agency agents are on their way to arrest them. He promises Doc he'll protect the research center and all the rare animals inside it. Meanwhile, Mike arrives at the hospital with a large group of agency soldiers and storms the place. Panic spreads among everyone in the hospital, and they run in fear. Vladimir, Hector, Doc, Chloe, and Cap stand together to face the soldiers. Mike orders Vladimir and Hector to surrender, but Hector starts talking, trying to explain that Kotara is the ice monster. Mike mocks him, doesn't believe a word, and again demands they surrender, but they refuse. Suddenly, Vladimir and his companions charge at the soldiers, attacking them and taking them down one by one. We see Chloe and Cap fighting with great skill as well. None of the soldiers can stand up to Vladimir, who moves with incredible agility and skillfully defeats them one after another. Mike eventually steps in to confront him. They fight each other, but Vladimir blocks all of Mike's blows with quick movements, then lands a powerful hit that knocks Mike to the ground. Despite this, the sheer number of soldiers allows them to surround the group. Suddenly, Hector bursts in with his crazy friends from the psychiatric ward, and they all throw themselves into the fight, attacking the soldiers. The doctors and nurses join in too and help them. Cap runs off to get Jim some coffee and throws it to him. As soon as Jim drinks it, he transforms into a giant dragon again and begins attacking the soldiers, beating them, scaring them, and breathing fire on them. Suddenly, the ice monster, Kotara, bursts into the hospital and freezes Cap with his ice beam. Jim goes berserk with rage and charges at Kotara. But Kotara dodges his attacks and tries to freeze him too. The ice beam ends up freezing everyone in the hospital, leaving them encased in ice. Jim becomes even angrier and breathes fire at Kotara. Kotara counters with his ice beam, the two forces collide with great power. In the end, Jim is the one who ends up frozen solid. Doc goes to Kotara and tells him that all his friends are innocent, and that he alone caused his own species' extinction. Kotara is enraged, aims his cannon at Doc, and prepares to freeze him. His memories flood back. He recalls being a child when Doc tried to convince his elders about his invention. Kotara's father didn't trust Doc and decided to put his son in a boat and send him away from the island. When the ice beam hit the sky, Kotara survived because he was far enough away. He walked back across the frozen sea and returned to the island, only to find his father frozen in front of him. Back to the present, Kotara blames Doc and tells him he lived his entire life in suffering because of him. Now he wants all of Doc's friends to experience the same pain by being frozen before his eyes. Doc is deeply affected and reminds him it was an accident. He begs Kotara to forgive him, but Kotara is determined. When Mike tries to intervene, Kotara reveals his face and freezes him too. Vladimir tells Chloe that Kotara's weak point is the radiosite. The two of them rush in together and attack, but Koter blocks their assault and manages to freeze Chloe. Vladimir is furious. He circles around Koter, dodging his ice beam, grabs a chunk of ice, and smashes it into Koter's face, destroying his eyes. Koter gathers his strength, hits Vladimir, and knocks him to the floor. He lifts his cannon, ready to freeze him. At the last moment, Hector sacrifices himself, jumping in front of his friend and freezing in his place. Vladimir is shocked and heartbroken by what happened to Hector. Maya arrives just then and confronts Koter, ordering him to surrender or she'll call her siblings to destroy him. Koter mocks her, reminding her he has disabled all communication systems in the area. Maya calmly reminds him she's a bee, and she has antennae. She contacts her bee siblings, who start arriving one group after another. Koter laughs, thinking they could never stand up to him. But he's stunned when millions of bees swarm into the place and attack him. Even though he keeps freezing them one by one, they form a massive vortex around him, tearing pieces off his suit. Doc and Maya are amazed at the power of the swirling bee storm. Vladimir grabs a weapon and signals the bees to open a path for him. He uses the gap to aim directly at the radiosite core and fires, destroying the suit completely. Despite this, Koter grabs Maya and threatens to kill her if the bees don't back off. Vladimir has no idea what to do. Suddenly, Doc appears with another mammoth named Melissa. Koter is stunned when he sees her and remembers how they used to play together as kids. Melissa speaks softly to him, explaining that Doc saved her life. She comforts him and hugs him. The soldiers surround them all. Later, all the frozen animals are transferred to the research center to be treated. Vladimir asks Doc if he'll really be able to heal them using radiosite. Doc is nervous but admits they have no other option. He starts the treatment procedure. A scanning beam sweeps through the room, checking everyone's condition. Thanks to it, the ice begins melting gradually. After a while, everyone returns to normal. When Vladimir looks for Hector, he doesn't find him. He is shocked to see Doc trying to revive Hector and tells Vladimir that Hector isn't breathing anymore. Vladimir is devastated. He tries to wake Hector and tells him he has become his closest friend, that he can't lose him. He hugs him and remembers all their shared memories. Suddenly, Hector starts breathing again and wakes up. Vladimir and everyone else cheer with joy because he's still alive. Sometime after all this, we see Chloe running through the hospital to meet Vladimir and Doc so they can watch the premiere of a new spy movie starring Maya. Vladimir is surprised Hector isn't with them. When he calls him, he discovers Hector is actually at the theater with Maya. From the way she behaves with him, it's clear the two of them like each other. We return to Vladimir, who gathers his courage and admits his love to Chloe. Since Chloe feels the same way, they hug each other. In the end, Vladimir and Hector learn the true meaning of cooperation and friendship after going on a dangerous adventure together to save the world from destruction. The story ends. If you like it, don't forget to like, subscribe, check the backup channel for real movie summaries in the first comment, and catch the previous videos. Bye!